it's $448,000. $448,867,000. I mean, what what happened to your victims? Your victim that you took the retirement fund, they had to sell their home. They're unable to buy another home. I mean, you took the savings that they had intended to live on after working their whole lives and gambled it away.
Now, I don't have a place in my heart for those who scam. I think most of us hate scammers. There's just a special place in the special future for all scammers, in my opinion. Now, this man, he scammed $448,867 from two of his clients. Now, what really upsets me about this case is the judge said, I know that people are upset about this. People don't like scammers, those who literally steal the dreams from people, who rob them of their future. So the judge says, I'm going to sentence you to a long sentence, one that will make the newspapers. They're going to think that we are tough on crime. Why? You're going to get 8 years in prison. But then little does anyone know, anyone who actually looks into the details of what that means, he only has to serve 7 years of that sentence. But wait, that's not all. You see, he has parole eligibility after serving 50% of that sentence, 3.5 years. So if you do the math, if he does get out, if he does get paroled, he actually got paid $100,000, actually more than that, for each year that he spent in prison. Well, there are probably a lot of people that would sign up for that kind of deal, aren't there? Anyways, listen to what he says to the parole board. Listen to what he told a parole interviewer before he met with the parole board, and see if you can come to the conclusion if this is just a classic con artist, or as he claims, someone who is just under the strains of his gambling addiction. I'm just going to throw out in the universe somewhere that it's possible maybe that his attorney suggested that he tell the judge that he had one of those gambling addictions, and that's why he robbed his clients of all this money. I don't know, just throwing it out there. With that, let's jump in.
Travis Smith, 440-513.
This hearing is being conducted in consideration for a parole. Travis Smith, 440-513. He is serving a sentence of 8 years execution and 7 years with 5 years probation, with 2 counts of larceny first degree. As of the state record reflecting a parole eligibility date of July 12 of 2025, there is no victim input in this case. There is an offender accountability plan for the offender. It has been reviewed and shows the offender has completed the following program. Voices, Tier 2, and is currently working. Utilizing wide collaborative offender risk evaluations score, the offender's overall score for recidivism falls in the low range. This is your opportunity to express to the board why you should be granted parole. You may begin.
Well, the first thing I would like to do is just, spend some time. And before I even get into why I should be granted parole, I'd like to just address the victims and just let them know I'm very sorry for my actions. And, they were selfish and they didn't deserve it. And I just want them to know that I'm going to work tirelessly to pay restitution and relentlessly to make sure that I take care of that. I also like to thank the board for taking the time, to hear my case today. I know it's been a very long day, but I just want to thank you for allowing me this time. Well, the first thing I want to go into is just the as to why I should be granted parole, or why I believe I'm a great candidate. I want to go into the programming. One of the first programs I talk about is I took Voices, and the Voices program, it really helped me. There was a lot of dialogue within the Voices program, which allowed me to see how my crimes affected the victims directly as well as indirectly. And it really allowed me to see the impact, on them, their families, my family, and as well as to society as a whole. So I believe that program really helped me to see the impact of my crime, and it also will help me prevent, committing crimes in the future. I also took a Tier 2 program, and that program, I believe, helped me as well to address my gambling addiction. I mean, also for the first time in my life, I took a program that I thought it really helped me. I got to see how destructive, not just gambling, but all addiction can be. And the Tier 2 program was very good because I thought the program was intense, and we went over a lot of different things to help. It went over a lot of things to help us out with respect to that, with respect to addiction. I also completed. I work in the kitchen as well. I've been working in the kitchen for over 2.5 years. 2.5 years in the kitchen. I started off as a line person. Then I went on to doing dishes, and then I got promoted to being one of the top cooks in the kitchen. And I've been working in the kitchen for over 2.5 years. And that job, you have to be trusted. It helped me to establish routines. We're given responsibilities, and we have to be trusted. And I believe that my time in the kitchen has also prepared me for when I am released. In addition to that, I took part in the Quinnipiac Inside Out program. That's a program where students from outside Quinnipiac, they come inside the jail, and we take a college course, and that's the prison exchange program. I did complete that course, and that course was very good as well. When we got to interact with the students from the outside, and we got to talk about the criminal justice system and how it operates here in Connecticut. I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous. I'm stuttering a little bit. I apologize. But I thought that program was very helpful, and I'm also helpful to just people in general. I have a background in business and accounting and things of that sort. So a lot of times people will come to me and they say, "Hey, I want to start a business." And I try to help people out by giving them pointers and different things, help them with business planning. A lot of guys were going home. I try to, do what I can to help if possible. And the other thing is I believe that I am ready to go. I believe that I'm prepared. Right now, I believe that I changed. This incarceration has been very difficult for me, and I changed. And I think one of the main things is, I'm very grateful for everything. A lot of things that I took for granted in the past, I don't take for granted anymore. This incarceration, while it was very difficult for me, I believe that it was necessary. I believe that this incarceration was the slap in the face or the gut punch that I needed to get me to change the way that I was conducting my life and the way that I was moving. So while it's been difficult, and I definitely didn't like it when I came in, but I realized that I believe it may have more than likely, I believe that it saved my life and it put me back on the right track. And while being incarcerated, I lost my mother, and I lost my mom. I lost a cousin and an uncle while being incarcerated. Excuse me. And excuse me. And I was unable to go to the funerals of any of them for my mom, my uncle, or my cousin. And it was due to it was due to my actions. And I have no one to blame for that but myself. And I told my mother that I was going to do better and I was going to be better. I'm sorry. I told her I was going to do better and I was going to be better once I got out. So right now I know that success is my only option. My only option is to get out and to do better and to be better. I owe that not only to my mom, who I promised, I owe it to my victims because I need to pay them the restitution. And I owe it to my family, for the pain and the embarrassment that I caused them. So I know that I'm going to do better. I'm going to be better, and I will be successful. And I have a vision. And new vision in life. And my vision is to see myself happy, full of joy, full of gratitude for life, for my health, for my family, and for all the freedoms that I'm able to experience. Because I do see myself as influential. I see myself as loved, respected, and living a life with purpose and integrity and honor for God. And for the remainder of my life, I plan to make a positive impact or impression on everyone around me. And I just want to thank you again for your time today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Smith. We appreciate you sharing your thoughts and insights into why you deserve parole. We're going to take turns to ask you questions, and then when we're done, we'll deliberate on the record and we'll give your answer. Mrs. Smith Palmieri will begin.
Thank you. So, Mr. Smith, first I want to say we are very sorry to have read about the loss of your mother. I read through all the documents. She was very supportive of you throughout the whole pretrial process and really throughout your life. So I'm sure it is a tremendous loss.
Thank you.
But we did read about that. We also read the entire file about the larcenies, both of them, the victims, what was going on, and the length of it. So my questions are really, they're kind of directed, not so much to ask more questions about how the offense occurred, but some other dynamics related to it. It seems to me from reading the offense that the primary issue was a gambling addiction. Is that how you see it?
Yes.
You seem a little hesitant.
No, yes. It was a gambling addiction. And, it just got out of hand. I believe it was gambling, but the hesitancy was a lot going on in my life. I was struggling in marriage. I mean, I had a lot of problems going on. And I believe I was using that as an outlet. I believe I was using the gambling as an outlet. And it really got out of control.
Okay. When did you realize that you had a gambling problem?
I
At
realized
what
that
point in all of this?
I realized that before coming to jail, and I never really took the concrete steps to address it. I probably should have gotten help long before it got out of hand, and I definitely should have gotten help long. But I believe I went to a GA class, a GA course maybe once or twice beforehand, but I knew I had a problem. And I didn't take the steps to address it like I should have. But knowing what I know now after taking that Tier 2 program and really addressing and seeing how destructive all addiction, not just gambling, can be, and it really was the gut punch I needed. Getting that huge sentence and really coming to jail. It really was impactful with letting me see just how destructive the addiction has become. Because a lot of times with addiction, and what I learned in Tier 2 is that you're in denial a lot of times. So I believe part of that, I probably was in denial. I probably thought, oh, I got it under control. Oh, I'm okay. But a lot of times when you're an addict, you don't realize it because you try to justify things. And until you get treatment like I got, in the Tier 2, or taking a Tier 2 course, it really helps to bring out and get to the nuts and bolts as to, oh man, so that's why I was doing that. Oh, these were the triggers that were happening and I didn't recognize it and I didn't notice it and I didn't get help.
Yeah, the Tier 2 program is very good about helping people identify, their addiction and triggers and put together a relapse prevention plan. I want to go back to something that you said a couple of minutes ago, was that that you probably should have realized it before you went to jail. So all the documents that I read, that was your explanation for embezzling the money from your clients, was your gambling problem. Did I misread that?
I'm sorry, can you rephrase that one more time? I'm sorry.
Sure. So all the documents that I read about the money that you embezzled from your clients,
Yes.
When you were being sentenced and going through the pre-sentence process, you identified gambling as the problem, as where all the money went. But then in your statement, you said, I probably should have realized before I got sentenced that I had a gambling problem. So
Well, no. Oh, I
it's a
apologize.
little contradictory.
I apologize. What I'm saying, what I probably should have realized that I had a gambling addiction long before I got in trouble. Long before I should have recognized it and got help. That's probably what I meant to say. I should have recognized that long before, or I should have addressed it. I knew I had a problem, but I just didn't address it. I didn't take the necessary steps. And there have been times before then where, I probably should have gotten help or said, man, I got to take action. And I was just in denial for so long. Okay. And I believe that, you have to, it's a shame that I had to fall this hard for me to realize how bad, that it actually got. And I believe that's what it took for me to really, get hammered, to have to come to jail and to really sit back while especially the first, a year or so in jail, you do a lot of thinking. And I really sat back and said, wow, you have a lot of time to think, and you think back at all the bad decisions that you made. And, that's kind of what happens. They say hindsight is 20/20, and a lot of times you're moving so fast and you're not paying attention to anything, and you're so busy being selfish and stuff, you don't pay attention to the harm that you're causing others.
Thank you. So I want to talk a little bit more too about before you were sentenced. So you were out on bond, and you said yourself, you should have got treatment, but you didn't. So you did not seek out any kind of gambling addiction treatment, nor did you go to any kind of GA or other supportive meetings?
I went to GA maybe twice, okay. Maybe 2 times before then. Okay.
So my other question, so while you were out on bond, though, you had started another business, a home improvement business, and you seem to have a lot of similar problems with that business as well. You were charged criminally with some additional charges of not following through with contracts. You were sued civilly where you have a judgment against you. What was going on that this type of, really they're larcenies, were being perpetuated still after you were arrested on these 2 larceny first convictions?
Yes. Well, COVID was going on, and I was working really hard to try to pay restitution, because I did pay some restitution before coming to jail. And I was taking on too much business too fast, and I was unable to keep up with some of the business, some of the workload that I was getting. That's what happened with those. And a combination of COVID, where some cases got pushed back because, we can't go out, or even with the customer saying, well, I don't want anyone to come out right now because of COVID. We have this going on. And I should have communicated better with those clients and with those customers. So there was poor communication on my part, but I did resolve those and have those cases now. Those customers did get their money back. I did make sure that those cases were resolved. But yeah, I was just taking on too much business. It was just poor management on my part, and I didn't communicate well, and that's what caused it even to go that far. I believe that I had so much going on with my current larceny cases, and I was working very hard to try to get to pay restitution, because I was able to come up and pay $20,000 restitution, but I was trying to get as many cases, or get as much work as I can to try to pay restitution, and I just got a little ahead of myself.
Yeah, well, the cases were pending for quite some time, and you did come to sentencing, I did read, with $20,000 in restitution. But you were unable to pay any more than that, because you seem, determined that you were going to make restitution to the victims, because one victim was an elderly, older person that you embezzled their entire retirement fund, and the other one was a younger couple where they had given you money to invest, which you did not invest at all, and instead you gambled it. So,
yeah, I'm sorry.
So your efforts to make restitution although you did, is $20,000 is some money. It certainly doesn't come close to what is owed to them.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. It doesn't. And that's why, my dedication right now, after I can't speak anything that I've done beforehand, before coming to jail, I make no excuses for it. I make no excuses for it. I just didn't do things the right way. I didn't operate the right way. I didn't do business the right way. And my efforts should have been much more than what they were beforehand. But I do know that going forward that I will operate better and I will make my best effort to get this money. One thing that I do know is I do have the ability to work hard. I know that when I put my mind to it, I can make I can earn a substantial amount of money, with my skills and abilities. I know that I can do this. And I know that, and going forward, I know that I will be able to pay substantial amounts of restitution once I get out. But speaking for before coming to jail, and before the pretrial, before all of this, I just didn't do the best job. I didn't do very good at managing things.
Okay. So you paid $20,000. Do you still owe student loans, mortgages, money to the IRS, and credit card debt?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
That I know
So
of.
that you know of. Okay.
Yes.
So, really, your ability to pay restitution is going to be a struggle, wouldn't you say?
No, I don't think it's going to be a struggle because I'm determined. And I look back at my life and I looked at the amount of money that I was earning when I was gambling, and I was gambling a lot. And now that I know that I have the gambling under control, and once I get out, I know that I'm going to seek treatment and I'm going to go to programs regularly. And I know that gambling is not going to interfere, which is why I'm confident that I'm going to be able to pay significant amounts of restitution because I know that I can earn money. I'm not concerned at all about being able to earn money, but I know that my determination now, because I owe it to the victims. They were very nice to me and they entrusted me and I feel terrible about it. And they were such good people. And there isn't a day that go by where I don't feel bad about it. So I know that I'm going to do everything I can. And I know it may seem difficult because I have a lot of debt. I do have a lot of student loan debt and I have, money goes owed to the IRS. But I just want you to know that, I plan to work tirelessly. I will work tirelessly and I will be able to make significant payments to this restitution.
So, Mr. Smith, it's clear throughout all the sentencing documents, your interview with parole, that it is your intention, your good intentions to pay restitution. And I ask a lot of these questions because, you're charged with 2 counts of larceny first. The amount of restitution is, and I did not take out the $20,000, but with the $20,000 removed, it's $448,000. $448,867,000. And your plan is to own your own insurance company and your home remodeling company. And it's hard for me not to think to myself that, one, I'm not sure with your convictions you would be able to own your own insurance company, and 2, you struggled with your remodeling company in the beginning. During pretrial. So it's hard for me to see that as a realistic sort of release plan. I also struggle with the fact that it's only taking the Tier 2 program, or maybe shortly before you were sentenced, that you seem to appreciate you had an addiction to gambling. So I just, those are my concerns. So in terms of high risk, you told the parole officer that you had no high risk situations coming out. If I asked you again about that, what would you see as a high risk situation for you in the community?
None, 0.
Okay, so I'm gonna tell you, I was a little bit troubled by that response, and I'm troubled by it again Because I would think that high risk for you would be the casinos, lottery, online gambling, all those, like somebody with a substance abuse problem, are issues for are relapse issues. So you have to have a plan in place. And, unfortunately, gambling is everywhere. Have you done anything with the casinos that would ban you from going?
Well, what I did do is I do plan to ban myself from all the casinos once I get out of jail.
Yeah.
I plan on banning myself, just to address one. There's a couple of things I wanted to address that you brought up, but I do plan on banning myself from all the casinos in the area, in Connecticut, as well as the ones in Massachusetts and all over. I do plan on doing that. The other thing I wanted to address, you said my plan. My plan actually wasn't to own my own insurance company when I get out. I actually have a lot of skills and ability. I believe, I don't know how that was a plan in the mind. I do have skills and abilities as far as being a technician. I've been studying a lot on on repair and being a technician. I plan on earning an income when I get out by being a technician, and then maybe doing something in sales along those lines. I believe that, I don't know how that got into with me owning my own insurance business. I believe I was asked that question about what I did in the past. I believe that was in the past, like before going to jail. I certainly understand that once I get out of jail, there's going to be some limitations that will prevent me from selling insurance and things of that sort. So that's definitely not one of the plans that I have. But as a repair technician, I can earn a substantial income, close to six figures, high six figures, just as a repair person. And I have multiple training manuals on repair and things of that sort that I've been studying since I've been in jail. For that, and I've also have a book that I've been studying on to get a CDL license. And in addition to that, I do have, an extensive background in sales. So I'm not depending on insurance and things of that sort. I have the book for the CDL license. I also have been reading the books to become a repair technician, because I know there are going to be limitations. So I apologize that there was some miscommunication with respect to what I plan on doing to earn money when I get out. But those specific professions, particularly, with the CDL license and others, I can earn a substantial amount of income that will really help me to pay restitution and pay significant amounts. And with respect to, I'm sorry.
I'm gonna agree with you in the fact that you have a college degree. You were working in the finance field for a number of years. I have no doubt that you have you can work in the sales business. I mean, that is part of what you were doing. That's how it's really how you cultivate the two victims in this case. Is you reached out to them, convinced them that, you could help them earn more money. And, being in the finance field, they, like you said, they trusted you. They were nice people and they trusted you. I guess, our job today is to determine your suitability for parole. It's to look at the crimes, your risk to the community, and, your ability to live successfully in the community. My concerns are, one, that you recognize the fact that you do have a gambling problem. It is an addiction. And there are, in my opinion, a lot of risks, a lot of triggers everywhere you turn. March Madness, we're in the middle of it, right? So it could be a struggle. Not that you can't manage yourself, but it would be a struggle. And I guess I was hoping to hear more acknowledgement that you see what will be what could present as some obstacles for you, and how you will manage them in the community, because you need to be successful, because your victims, could be more financial. And if you're not successful, the victims don't get paid their restitution as well.
Yes, ma'am. I apologize. See, when you asked the question about safety to the community and risk to the community, I was thinking in terms of violence and things of that sort. I didn't see it as what you're referring to with respect to, my specific risk gambling. I didn't see it that way. So I apologize if I misunderstood. But with respect to my risk, I know full well that I have to be cognizant of everything around me, like lottery. I mean, it could be something as simple as a friend saying, hey, we having a poker game. Like I learned in tier 2, I absolutely can't go to a poker game. Oh, we're having poker night. Oh, we're having fantasy football. I won't even participate in fantasy football because I know that can be a trigger. I also learned that in tier 2. So anything that can be a trigger, I know to stay away from. This incarceration and this whole experience has taught me that I have to stay away from gambling, period, because it destroys lives. It's bad. It's terrible. So I want you to know full well that I do see that. I just misunderstood where you personally what you were saying. I guess with the risk to the community, I was thinking I was thinking maybe you were talking about violence, and I said violence. I'm not a violent person. I haven't, but I apologize if I misunderstood. But I know I understand full well, and I acknowledge that I have to do everything. I mean, even in tier 2, it even said we have to have a sponsor. Like if I felt the urge to go and gamble, I need to call someone. Hey, let me call my sister. Let me call a friend that's going to help me. They even talked about having sponsors in the tier 2 program where we can call someone, or an advocate that can talk to us or talk us down if we're feeling a certain way or if we're feeling about abuse, and just like any other addiction. So I'm full aware of that, and I want you to know that I'm aware of that, and I know it's going to be difficult. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I know for a fact that I'm going to succeed. I have no choice. I have no other options other than to be successful and not to relapse.
Yeah, and I thank you for clarifying what your interpretation of that was. But make no mistake, your convictions create just as much harm as somebody that's selling drugs in the community, and maybe even more harm, because what happened to your victims. Your victim that you took the retirement fund, they sell their home. They're unable to buy another home. You took the savings that they had intended to live on after working their whole lives and gambled it away. So there are many other ways of looking at crimes, and financial crimes are just as harmful as violent crimes. They affect people in different ways. My last question, Mr. Smith, what do you think are your most redeeming qualities?
What do you mean by redeeming qualities? I just want to make sure I understand the question.
Okay, so we are looking, we want you to be successful in the community. If you're successful, the victims at some point, will gain some restitution. But what do you think are your best qualities?
I believe
what do you have that will make you successful?
What do I have that will make me successful is my determination and my will to succeed. My desire to succeed, my desire to be looked upon in a positive way again. I hurt a lot of people, and I've disappointed a lot of people, and I embarrassed a lot of people, and I hurt a lot of people. So my biggest redeeming quality is I feel like I have to do whatever's required to regain some respect, whether it be from the victims, whether it be from my family, whether it be from society as a whole. I want people to be able to say, well, that guy, he fell down, but, he found a way to get back up, and he's doing well. And, he's working hard to pay restitution. At the very least, I want people to say, you know what? He didn't let this incarceration define him. He didn't let the circumstance define him. you know, because a lot of times you can let your circumstance deflate you, or you can let them define you. And, you know, my redeeming qualities, I refuse to let this situation define me. And I will be successful. I will be able to, I will pay the victims back. And I will be looked upon at some point as, you know, in a positive manner, as someone influential, as someone loved.
One last question. Do you still own a home? Do you still own properties?
No, I don't.
No? Okay. All right. Thank you. I have no further
Thank you.
questions. Madam Chair.
I have no question.
Mr. Smith, do you have a gambling problem?
Yes, ma'am.
What have you done to address it? And I don't want to hear about tier 2 because they have gambling anonymous programs.
Mhm. Before coming to jail, I didn't do much other than I went to GA a few times. Other than that, I didn't do much to address it. But I know going forward, you know, when I get out, I plan on attending these classes, going to GA regularly. I plan on banning myself from the casinos. And I don't know if
How
I
are you
can ban
going to
myself.
do that?
I'm going to do that immediately. As soon as I get out,
So how are you going to ban yourself?
I believe I can either make a call to the casinos and let them know who I am, or maybe write a letter down there. I don't know what the process is, but I will figure out whatever it is. I'll work with maybe a parole officer or whoever I can to figure out how I can ban myself. I don't know what the process is, but I'll make sure that it's done. I had already planned on doing that. And as far as
So here's what's concerning Mr. Smith. When my colleague, Ms. Smith Mary, and the parole officer asked you to identify a high risk for you, and you said there was none. So to me, that means you are just sort of clueless about what risky situations are out there that you're going to go out and encounter almost every day. And as she said, there's casinos, all kinds of online gambling, buying tons of lottery tickets. I look at all of that as gambling. And I was hoping to hear you say, I am going to connect with Gambling Anonymous. I'm going to get myself a sponsor just in case I have one of those urges or cravings to go and do some gambling. And so those are the concerning things for me that I didn't hear you talk about when my colleague asked you all those questions. And before I, go any further, I just want to say I'm sorry to hear about the death of your mom and your uncle and your cousin.
thank you.
Yeah. So, those are concerning areas for me. And so I think you need to spend time really thinking about what makes you want to go and gamble, because those feelings and thoughts don't just disappear. You have to figure out how you're going to manage that.
Yeah, the only reason why I didn't understand, I had misunderstood what she was saying about risk. I didn't understand because that's when I went into tier 2, because we went all. I know you said you don't want to hear about tier 2, but that's when I went into. Yes, I planned on banning myself from the casino, having a sponsor, and I learned about triggers, and I do know that there's all this online gambling, and I see it on TV when I'm watching March Madness. I see all this stuff, but gambling right now is so far. I know that it's in the back of my mind and all these things there, but it's the last thing I want to do. Gambling has gotten me into so much trouble, and it's got me in this situation that I'm in right now. So
you heard me talk about those urges and cravings that can come up any minute. Those are the same things that they identify in tier 2. You need to know what your urges and your cravings are and what things trigger you to want to jump in your car or want to go somewhere where you can make a bet.
Yes, ma'am. That's exactly what we covered in tier two. And that's why I mentioned earlier when I mentioned tier two, I mentioned how important that tier two was for me and how it really helped me to see and understand these things. And I did mention earlier that tier two allowed me to see the triggers. It allowed me to see, wow, my buddy would call me and say, hey, let's take a ride to the casino. Or somebody would say, hey, let's go do a fantasy football or something along those lines. And the tier two program really helped to bring those things out and it helped me to identify the things that I didn't see in the past. I didn't really pay attention to it, but the tier two program really allowed me to see it. And the only reason that I didn't bring it up initially, I hadn't misunderstood what she had said earlier.
I got it.
But I just want you guys to know that I absolutely understand that I have a problem, and I'm going to do everything in my power, to address that gambling once out of here. Even while in jail, even while I was in here, there's even gambling going on in here that I absolutely don't participate in, and those same triggers are going on right here in the dorms every single day. Guys are gambling. They got poker games. They got all type of stuff going on. And I don't gamble. What I do is I read. I go and I sit down. I meditate. I get up in the morning and there's a book that I read called Word of the Day. It's about a positive word of the day. And I'll read that. I also read a book called Atomic. I didn't get the chance to get to it. I read a book called Atomic Habits. It's by James Clear. And it talked about your habits. So I've done things myself to help me. And what it does is it teaches you how to take it teaches you how to create positive habits. And like taking little steps to create positive habits. It's a book called Atomic Habits by James Clear. That was one of the books that I read in here to help me with the actual gambling addiction. I also read a book called The Power of Positive Energy by Tanash Chubb. And it's about, just viewing everything positively. So I've done steps in jail and things here to help me address the gambling. And I don't participate. I don't even play cards. The guys say they want to play spades. I'm addressing my gambling here. I don't even play spades. I won't play spades. I don't play any cards at all. I go to work most of my day. I get up.
We get it, Mr. Smith.
I'm sorry. I apologize. I just want to make sure that you understand that I am taking steps to, thank you.
Okay. All right. So we're going to deliberate on the record now, and we'll let you know.
So it's a very difficult case. It's a financial case. It involves Mr. Smith manipulating the two victims out of a total of $468,000, $867. He basically gambled it all the way. And then while he was out on pretrial, he had some more troubles where he was sued. It's the same kind of behaviors. He does score low for risk to recidivate. He has no criminal history. He's done the Voices program. He did the Tier 2 program. He's had a job. He has no disciplinary reports. He has support in the community. I do think that Mr. Smith has the ability to pay restitution. I know it's not for us to determine, today whether or not that will actually happen or not. It's to determine suitability for parole. It's not a case where we get input necessarily from the victims. There is great harm to both victims. As I said to Mr. Smith, the elderly victims lost their retirement, had to sell their home, living in a rental. The other victims, took money that they had saved. They had 2 children, had adopted one of the sister's children. Really put them in financial constraints. However, Do you think that Mr. Smith has the ability to go out, be gainfully employed, make restitution? It's disappointing in some respects. You know, that he didn't do any gambling treatment prior to being sentenced. I think it would have placed him in a much better space in terms of his rehabilitation for his addiction. So I had come in today not really thinking that Mr. Smith was suitable for parole due to the harm to the victims. But when we do look at suitability for release, I think that Mr. Smith does meet the criteria. So I would be in favor of granting.
I agree. Everything that in reviewing the file, you know, everything you said, it's there's no criminal history here. It creates outlaw, state appropriate programming. He was sentenced to a sentence that is eligible for parole at 50%. He hasn't done anything that for me would make him unsuitable for parole, so he's secured parole.
Okay, granted, he is suitable. But I'm going to oppose based on the nature and circumstances of the offense. So it'll be a majority grant. Do you want him to do?
They did not confirm his release, so he needs a halfway house, mental health evaluation and treatment. These are two, but a lot of times gambling falls under that.
Yeah.
No contact with the victims. I only wrote one of the victims' names down, MWM. I did not write the couple's name down, unfortunately.
There,
Do you have
right
that in
here.
You repeat, you said, mental health evaluation treatment, no contact with the
Halfway house. Wrote those names down, I just don't know. So there was the husband and wife with
Yes.
256,500. And then the other victim, that was 212,367. So there was a husband and wife,
Yeah,
and then
a second. So maybe. There we go. CG and MG.
yeah, that's the couple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in the case of Travis Smith, inmate number 4400513, there's a majority decision to grant discretionary parole on or after July 12th, 2025, with the following conditions. No contact with victims WM, and no contact with victims CG and MG. Mental health evaluation and treatment as deemed necessary, and release to a halfway house if needed.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Aye. So it's a majority grant. So you're granted on or after July 12th, 2025, Mr. Smith.
All right, so
Thank
this
you.
concludes the hearing for Travis Smith, number 4400513. Mr. Smith, you will get a copy of this disposition in the mail. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's talk about this. They granted parole, and the reasons for granting are so insane and so absurd. It's like, well, he is qualified for 50% off his sentence. Okay, let's give him parole. This guy, so much was wrong with this hearing that it melted the brain. And maybe that's part of his manipulation tactic, is just to gaslight, do so much that And I think that in general, they're good at doing that, these scammers. It's like, it just turns your brain into melt. You forget what you're even talking about. He was caught in so many lies. Everything he said was a contradiction. Everything he said was, in my opinion, an outright lie. And again, I don't even know where to start because there's so much of it. I wrote down notes. I've listened to this like 3 times. I have the information in front of me, but still, I don't even know where to start because of how insane this is. This is the type of hearing that unless I wrote down an essay of everything that he said that was wrong, I wouldn't even know. I mean, it starts off with, but it's like he tries to paint this picture. I don't know if he views himself this way or he's just so accustomed to doing it, but he's a good businessman. He's brilliant. He's a successful entrepreneur. And he's so good that how he gives back in prison is to teach the other inmates that are getting out about bookkeeping. The man who's in debt up to his nose, the man who's stealing, right? He teaches people entrepreneurial skills. Then he's going to go out there and he's going to run an insurance company, which is the most insane thing. You're going to go sell insurance. Oh, yeah, the fraudster with felons is going to go sell insurance. And he's going to go do his contracting company. And every lie he gets caught in, they're just like, well, like, and he doesn't even have the felonies for the construction company that he ran, that he was scamming clients on. That comes up as like a side note here. He's talking about how he's such a great business. You know how many years it was? Like the wheels of justice move so slowly in this case. Let me share with you. Thank you, Lady Holly. And I just want to point something else, the hypocrisy of these DAs. This is a state of Connecticut Divisional Criminal Justice State's Attorney. They issue an official press release about this case. They want everybody in their constituencies to know that they're putting the bad guys away. So they issue a press release. Yet, do they show up to this hearing? Do they write a letter? Do they tell the parole board that 2.5 years is not enough? This guy has been a menace to our society. He has been stealing from everything that he does. I mean, from what I gathered from this hearing, I know that he's only convicted of a couple of felonies, pisses me off. Like I said, he got paid $100,000, more than $100,000 a year, 3 years in 3.5 years in prison for all that money. There are people that would sign up to it. So let me share this with you. So the state's attorney announced today that Travis Smith was sentenced to 7 years imprisonment. At least they didn't say the full sentence that they gave him, the suspended 18 years. At least they did to their credit, they didn't lie, right? 7 years imprisonment of a series of years-long larcenies against multiple families who had entrusted their retirement savings with him as a purported investment advisor. It was like he's putting on the look now. He's sitting there with his notepad and his pen, pretending to jot things. Oh, that's a great idea. I'll go tell the casino. And I'm sorry, I know I'm all over the place right now, but it's my opinion that the gambling thing was completely made up. It's my opinion that his attorney said, tell the judge and DA that you have a gambling problem. And I think that he actually even forgot because you could see in this hearing, he didn't even know, the gambling. Oh yeah, it was a problem. It's not a problem. Who shows up to the parole hearing and says, I have no risks of getting out, ladies and gentlemen, none. And the parole board says, okay, why would we parole you? And it's just on the fact of retribution, he has to do more time. Just on that fact alone, which oftentimes the Connecticut Parole Board does not care about, especially Paul, he doesn't care about anything. But the idea that he completely flunked his parole hearing, he flunked as hard as you can flunk it. He did not admit to his problems. He did not have a plan. He did not take accountability. He was still talking about how he's going to get out there and pay back because he's a good businessman. His story changed so many times. I just lost track. Smith was arrested by a warrant multiple larcenies against 2 families, one in Milford, the other in Durham. the spring of 2019. See how slowly the wheel. And this was for a crime that he did, by the way, in 2015 and 2016. It took these poor families years to even get him arrested. And if that doesn't tell you anything, to think about how many war victims he might have, if this is how hard it was for them to get attention of the DA. Detective Mitchell Warwick and Milford Police Department, with assistance from the Civil Council and Connecticut Bank Commission, determined that Smith had repeatedly and persistently solicited Milford and Durham victims to entrust their retirement savings with him over the course of many years. According to the court documents, only months after being trusted with over $300,000 in retirement, and they can't even get the number right. Again, sorry to interrupt, but this is the judge and DA doing a press release, and they don't have the patience to put the exact numbers in here the way that the parole board put in the exact numbers. It's just laziness. Smith created a shell limited liability corporation. Look at that. He creates a real shell company into which he embezzled the entirety of each victim's savings. Over the course of 2015 and 2016, Smith spent extravagantly on himself, undertaking vacations to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and spending thousands of dollars of the victim's money in the Mohegan Sun Casino. Again, you see there, it's thousands, not hundreds of thousands. The whole "I have a gambling addiction" thing, in my opinion, was just, again, it's what attorneys tell you to do. If you're facing a prison sentence, I see this on the YouTube. You can go in there and say, "Well, I had a problem with substance." You have to give a reason for it. Oh, I was a gambling addict. I meant well. I don't even believe it. I don't even think he remembered that was part of his pitch. Smith entered a guilty plea in each case to one count of larceny in the first-degree violation of Connecticut General Statute, and a capped plea agreement that contemplated a total effective sentence of 18 years, suspended after 12, with the right to argue for less, followed by 5-year probation. These DAs are pathetic. On June 14, 2022, the Honorable Julia Dewey, she's so honorable, presided over the sentencing of Smith, hearing from the Deputy Assistant Attorney Lawrence Sharp and Senior Assistant State's Attorney Russell Zentner. And they heard from the victims. And if you don't think that the victims wanted to show up to this parole hearing, it happened June 15, 2022 is when the victims showed up to sentence. You don't think they'd want to come out here 3 years later after their lives are completely and entirely ruined from a financial aspect, their dreams? I don't think they were notified. I just don't. After hearing from all parties, Judge Dewey, and we've seen it many times where they are not notified. We've seen, because we'll see that victims will show up after a commutation hearing and say, "We were never told about the commutation hearing." And they'll show up to the parole hearing. After hearing from all parties, Judge Dewey sentenced Smith a total effective sentence between the two cases of 18 years suspended of several, blah, 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 blah. The victims were deeply appreciative of the efforts and both satisfied with the sentence and grateful for closure it brought them. Do you think they'd be satisfied to know that he was out 3 years after that sentencing date? I wonder. And to think about this. He got this sentence. He still got this gift of a sentence, even though while he was waiting for trial, because he's arrested in 2019. So it's 3 years while he is waiting for trial. He gets caught up in other scandals of having construction companies and billing clients and not doing the work. The judge would have known this in the PSI report. And by the way, he paid back 20 grand. That 20 grand was not out of the goodness of his heart. He was hoping that 20 grand would help him get a lesser sentence, right? And anyways. And even with that PSI, to show that he was continually scamming people and there were civil lawsuits against him, the judge still didn't throw the book at him. And that's just sick. Now he's going to go out there thinking that he's some great financial advisor. Don't worry, he's going to go out there and try to open up an insurance company, which is just insane that he would mention that. And he's going to go out there with his pen and his paper, and he's going to go, in my opinion, and find more victims. Just my opinion. Who knows? With that, I'll let you go.
It's $448,000. $448,867,000. I mean, what you know what happened to your victims? Your victim that you took the retirement fund, they had to sell their home. They're unable to buy another home. I mean, you took their the savings that they had intended to live on after working their whole lives and gambled it away.